Okay, so we're going to continue with the law of one, living the law of one, even one-on-one the choice. This is chapter 2 and part 11. To continue, it is easy to make service to self decisions in life, in daily life, for instance. Again, using the flow of traffic as an example, I often need to take the ramp from one expressway to another as I go to an appointment. This particular ramp has a merging lane that ends about halfway along the ramp's soaring arc through the ethers before descending to the second interstate. I usually am a, quote, good girl, unquote, and get in line in the left lane that continues through to the second road. Occasionally, however, I am late to an appointment and then I use the merging lane, thereby inconveniencing the person who must brake to let me in, as well as slowing down to the right for everyone behind him. My rationale is my lateness. However, in taking the merging lane, I am consciously putting others out. This sounds tiny, but such tiny choices and the awareness of them which allows us to consider them are what constitute our work on the game board. Here's another example of service to self moments of choice in everyday life. You break a sandwich in two and one half's larger than the other. If you keep the largest part for yourself and hand the smallest part to your friend, that is a service to self act in that it puts your needs or desires ahead of another's. This cuts into the positive polarizing you are already doing by sharing your food. So that one act neutralizes the negative act of keeping the large half for yourself, even though it seems like a tiny thing. Cuts the positive, in other words, it neutralizes the positively polarizing act of giving or sharing the food. You see, these are things you don't think about in daily life. To continue, or saying you have been sitting in an uncomfortable chair in a meeting, another member of the group leaves the room temporarily. You move into his more comfortable chair, explaining to yourself that you have a bad back and need a good seat more than he does. That is a service to self act in that you are putting your own needs ahead of another's. Now, if you go to the route of conversing with that person who has the comfortable chair, explaining that you have a bad back, and asking him to change seats with you, you are giving the other self honor, seeing him as an equal to you, and asking for his help. You thereby remain service to others in polarity. The difference is the difference between taking and asking. Parents are the original examples of service to self choices to their baby. The baby is helpless at birth, and the parents absolutely must be in total control of that infant's life in order to preserve it. For many years, though, through grade school, middle school, and high school, our culture assumes that parents retrain this right of control over their child, accepting physical abuse. When the child is fully grown adult, we know parents who have expectations of continuing to control his adult child, his mate, and his children can be very painful for the adult child and his family to experience. Whether or not they allow the parent to control them, such parents will gladly explain that all the control is for the child's own good. Resisting such thinking only makes it more persistent force of a Resisting such thinking only makes it a more persistent force of our society and our own natures. I'm only suggesting that there is any reaction in the outer world to an enhanced understanding of your polarity. I am rather suggesting that knowledge of polarity can help us to make better ethical choices within our own appropriate sphere of action. A service to others game players only works on himself. As he makes an ethical decision and works on himself, there may indeed be a consequence in the outer world. He may receive thanks, credit, and honor, or his actions may not seem appropriate to others, and he may receive condemnation and dismissal. However, the service to self-polarizing person will keep his eye on the present moment, not concerned with others' opinions, rather than depending upon the opinion of others for justification. He will consult his own interests. We all start out as service to self-orientated people. As babies, we cry for food and attention, and we do not stop until we have been served. Our first brush with service to others thinking is likely to be the parental suggestion that we share our toys. From this first contact with ethics, we wend our way through our maturing years, balancing what is helpful to us and what is helpful to others in choosing how to behave. Since every situation is complex in our society and many shades of grey for the most part replace anything of a black and white obviousness in determining whether service to others lies. The challenge is to find our way to our own ethical choices with a clear mind and a remembrance of the nature of polarity. The choice. This is Ra. Ra says, so the questioner says, what am I really attempting to understand? Is what this choice is so important? Why the Logos seems to put so much emphasis on this choice, and what function this choice of polarity has, precisely in the evolution or the experience of that which is created by the Logos? Ra replies, Ra, I am Ra. The polarization or choosing of each mind, body, spirit is necessary for harvestability from third density. The higher densities do their work due to the polarity gained in this choice. So in other words, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, and even the seventh densities of consciousness, which is hundreds and hundreds of millions of years, billions of years even, billions of years, of Earth years, your polarity, whether it's negative or positive, is decided upon for all of that time. In fourth, fifth, sixth, and even seventh densities from your third density choice of polarity. So literally the rest of your existence in this universe as an entity rides upon this one choice. To continue, people sometimes say that they achieve immortality in the form of their children and their children's children. There is a certain validity to that at the level of DNA. Their contributions to the gene pool are forever appreciated, as are those of all the donors since the first typo great apes descended permanently from trees and became our human forebearers. By human forebearers, Carla means what we would call the Homo erectus. They were basically apes that could just to say walk on two legs for part of the time, and they were chosen as the DNA. Their DNA was taken, I should say, from the great ape family of the Homo erectus, and these were basically apes. They were not human at all, and so the genes were spliced with the Pleiadians did the first splicing, or the gene seeding, and the genetics were crossed between the Pleiadians and the ape bodies of, or the ape DNA of the Homo erectus. Okay, so the missing link will never ever be found between apes and humans. It never has been found between apes and Homo sapiens sapiens. This will never be found because there is a huge missing link, and that missing link will be forever there because the gene splicing took place originally with the many hundreds of millions of years ago. From what I've been shown, at least 200 million years ago by the originally Pleiadians, and then many others. Many other Anunnaki. Anunnaki means from heaven to earth they came. The ones from space to earth, they came. The ones who descended from the space to the earth, who tinkered with our human DNA using ape DNA and human DNA. And then the others following them, the Syrians, the Arcturians, the many negatively orientated Anunnaki as well as positively orientated, over the many millennia and many millions of years indeed, have tinkered with this DNA. To continue. There is a degree of immortality for people who have created works of art or inspiration, or who have acted as images for the fantasies of the public. Leonardo da Vinci retains his fame 500 years after he flourished, and even has a recent mystery novel written in his name in the title. William Shakespeare is still a man whose verse is on every school's lips, and whose to be or not to be expresses the heart of every person's dark night of the soul. Joan of Arc stands for her Lord and Jesus of Nazareth, rises to heaven from an empty grave in the minds of all those who live in the culture of our times. And Marilyn Monroe, James Dean and Elvis Presley and all of their kind still whisper to us of youth, beauty and stardust long after their time has passed. Yet in the end, change is inevitable and ongoing. This world and all of its seeming treasures is but an illusion and shall vanish eventually. We must look elsewhere than this physical world for real immortality, and we have no further to look than our inner beings. Our essential selves are immortal. We as individuals in this life all are an essential selves are immortal. Sorry, let me start that again. We as individuals in this life all are a part of something the Confederation calls our soul stream. Each of our lifetimes has added to the content of our own soul stream. This is what you could call your higher self. I'm being shown. When we rejoin our soul stream after this life is over, we shall re-meet our whole self or higher self. That self is not the personality shell, but the essence of the self that has gone through all of these lifetimes. When we do meet that soul stream again after our deaths, it is very likely that we will either have just graduated from third density or just been slotted for another cycle of 76 plus 1,000 years in order to have yet another third density environment on another Earth-like world. Don't forget, you won't be coming back to the Earth because the Earth is fourth density. You might have another lifetime or two, maybe, to make your choice, but really you need to be polarizing in this lifetime, ideally. It is in this context that I ask you to consider that you hope for when you come to that moment. Do you hope to have graduated? If so, the way of doing that is simple and straightforward. Make the first choice. Make it with all of your heart. Decide that in this lifetime you will stand for love. You will be an agent of the love of the infinite creator. When you fall down and make your errors, you will pick yourself back up and start over. If you can make that simple commitment to intending with all of your heart to be an ethical being, by your very intention you have just reached a service to others polarity that will allow you to graduate. The change in vibration is instantaneous. Please do not be discouraged when you fail to keep this promise to yourself on occasion or fall down in some way, according to your own judgment. After you make this promise to yourself, humans err. Remember the old adage, to err is human, to forgive is divine. Make it a point to forgive yourself, even as you vow not to make that same mistake again. Sometimes it helps to create an image of yourself that expresses this view of the self over a whole lifetime. A handy image of this kind is the image of knighthood. Knights are persons of honour who vow loyally to the Creator and to some person, such as their king, or some ideal, such as service to others. See yourself as a polarity knight on the eternal quest for the holy grail of truth, self-knowledge and increased polarity. The choice is where the rubber hits the road, not just for this lifetime, but for all of the lifetimes we shall enjoy for the next 3 densities, or 4 maybe. The work we do here in third density achieves a certain purity of polarity. It is from that point of achieved polarity that we will refine our choice to in higher densities and other classrooms for many lifetimes to come. That's probably a good place to leave it, and yeah, this is exactly what I've been shown. Exactly what I've been shown. That in third density you make your choice, and that choice then carries that same polarity that you've chosen, whether it's positive or negative, for all of your rest of the time in this universe. Okay, namaste.